Hi, this video is about writing summaries, the why and the how. Now imagine you have a leaking sink in your kitchen. Now one thing you might typically do in such a situation is you'd call a plumber for help. Now imagine if a plumber comes over and he brings along an empty toolbox and he says, I don't have the tools for the job. And because of that, he can't fix your sink. Such a plumber would be useless. Now, what's this got to do with writing summaries? Now, when we write summaries, what we are doing is we are taking all the tools for problem solving, such as the principles and concepts related to a topic, and we are neatly arranging them on a piece of paper and therefore arranging them in our minds. This would make us a lot more capable to solve problems. If we do not do this, then we enter into our problem solving task with basically an empty toolbox, or if we have studied in a haphazard manner, a very messy toolbox where we don't know or cannot find the appropriate principle to solve the problem. So principle consolidation is essential to problem solving. So take, for example, the topic of mechanics. In such a topic, we have important principles such as the principle of conservation of energy, Newton's laws of motion, and the equations of kinematics. In addition to that, we would probably also consolidate important applications, typical problems that we might see. All of this in our mind would enable us to solve any problem that we see in the exams, be they new problems that we've never encountered before, or old problems that we are used to encountering. So a typical physics problem might look like this. A rock falls from rest. Calculate the speed of the rock after it falls 10 meters. There are several ways for us to solve this problem. One principle we might apply would be the principle of conservation of energy. Using that, we would equate the sum of initial energies to the sum of final energies. So the initial gravitational potential energy plus the initial kinetic energy equals to the final gravitational potential energy plus the final kinetic energy. And so on the left-hand side of the equation, we have mgh plus 0. And on the right-hand side of the equation, we have 0 plus half mv squared, 0 being applied to the appropriate values, which are zeros at the initial and final positions. Then we would make v the subject, and we proceed to solve the speed of the rock after falling 10 meters. However we might solve the problem, one thing that is inescapable is that the principle is essential for the problem solving, which brings us back to why we must have our consolidation exercise to collect all the principles of the chapters so that we can solve all related problems. So do summary writing tasks really enhance student performance? Well, let's look at this study published in 2016 that was conducted in Hong Kong. The purpose of the study was for them to compare the effectiveness of summary writing tasks in enhancing the long-term retention of students with different levels of test anxiety. The idea here is that different students have different anxiety responses to exams. Some might be very relaxed, some might be very anxious, and they believe that this might impact their ability to perform. However, they wanted to see how testing, and in our important case, summary writing, affects their performance. There were 133 students aged 12 to 14, and they were randomly assigned into 3 training groups, one for testing, one for summarizing, and a control group which did neither of these things and just went about business as usual. And what they found was that both highly test-anxious participants and less test-anxious participants in the summarizing condition outperformed those in the control conditions. The participants in the control conditions demonstrated the lowest performance regardless of their test anxiety level. What this conclusion allows us to be drawn is that no matter how anxious you are about an exam, you might be very relaxed or you might be very anxious. By writing your summaries, you will likely outperform those who do not.
Now, why is writing summary such an integral part of studying? Now, it's closely tied to the process in which mastery is acquired. Now, if you look at the animation, the acquisition of mastery tends to follow a certain cycle. First, we start off with the notes. The notes gets us our principles and skills, and some easy examples for us to get a handle of the topic. Then we go into practice, and we get a lot of medium and difficult practice. And then we come to the summary writing, where we want to capture this network of knowledge that we have just acquired. And then the process repeats again. Principles and skills, easy applications linked to the principles and skills, moving on to more medium and difficult applications, and not wanting to forget. And so we get that network of information and we apply it to a summary in the best way that we understand it. Also notice that the notes do not tend to be laid out in the same way that we might understand a topic, and so when we do our summaries, it tends to look very different than the way the notes are laid out. So writing summaries is a really important part of this process because you have spent so much time mastering the topics as well as its associated applications that you don't want to forget how you came to wrap your brain around all the concepts and its applications. So you want to have a hard copy, an artifact that captures your way of understanding the topic uniquely.
It also gives you a sense of tangible progress. You know, when you come out of a topic, a session of revision, not only do you have practice, but you also feel like you have consolidated your topic better because you have a tangible artifact, which is the summary you have just written. Therefore, this allows you to feel less anxious because you feel like your time has been spent well and you have made tangible progress. It also provides a useful and quick reference during applications, during practice, and also before you go in for a test or examination. So how do we write summaries? There are a few possible summary templates. Here is one that I quite like. This summary template has 6 sections. The first 2 sections are important. They capture the main central ideas and central equations of the topic. The following 4 sections, could be 3, could be 4, are important examples that you have come across in the topic that really captured your learning and allowed you to accelerate your ability to apply the concepts. Here's an example of how it might look like. So for the topic of thermal physics, you have central ideas and central equations. So central ideas could capture your definitions. The central equations could, of course, be all the relevant formulas. And then, of course, example 1, 2, 3, maybe even 4 are all examples that you tried and you will say, wow, this really shone a light on how I am supposed to apply these ideas. And then you record it down. And so that when you see a question in the exam, which looks like a version of this example, then you'd be in a much better position to apply and solve that problem. Other formats might look like this. This is the typical concept map. This is a radial concept map where the chapter is written in the center and the topics and subtopics and descriptions radiate outwards from it. On the other hand, we have something that looks like a cascading series of chapter, topic, and subtopics, starting from the top and then cascading down to the bottom. Here is a sample of a summary of one of my ex-students. You can see that there's a great amount of effort that goes into it. She puts in a lot of colors. She uses a lot of highlighters to identify key parts of the notes that she has taken. And what I really, really like is that it's very, very rich in diagrams. I'm a firm advocate of drawing diagrams. I think when you draw a diagram, it really helps you capture many ideas into a single picture. Here's another student. She tends to go on a more qualitative, written way of doing her summaries, which is fine. I accommodate it because I think everyone's mind works differently. But here you can see it's mostly words and writing. But she still demonstrates a good ability to apply these ideas in her written work. In summary, about writing summaries. Writing summaries is an essential consolidation exercise for subject mastery. It allows you to take ownership of your learning and cast your knowledge as how you deem fit. So thank you for watching, and I look forward to reading your very well written summaries.